Ever watch a movie and go, what? That's probably the best way to describe Nightmare Weekend. Nightmare Weekend's a 1986 sci-fi horror film from director Henri Sala. The movie opens with the most low-tech heist ever conceived. These two beer-swilling bikers are going to rob something. They need to climb this building we can't see to hack into a computer mainframe. The high-tech alarm goes off, which is accompanied by a hand puppet.
Danger! Danger!
We're a minute into this film. Wait, I thought this was going to be some super restricted area, but it's just someone's house with a satellite dish. The guy climbing up takes off his necklace for some reason and gets on the roof. The puppet turns the dial until he connects to the Apache server. The necklace then turns into a ball bearing, which smacks the guy in the head and knocks him off the house. Well, he sure is dead. We then cut to some community college USA. Two girls from Rhonda's workout are talking about some kind of experiment.
A whole weekend with nothing to do but relax and get studied by some nut.
How exactly does someone relax while being studied by some nut? Some famous scientist's daughter is paying $500 for a bunch of college kids to stay at their house for the weekend. I'm sure it'll end well. Julie's getting everyone ready for their guests. Tony heads to the ever-popular stage stop to point at people and look douchey.
You're quantity, and I'm quality.
And this is how Brokeback Mountain started? Meanwhile, Ralph enjoys a booze sandwich. He gets a call to go pick up the girls and bring them to the house. Jessica goes home to see her father. Is there something wrong with the driver's side? Jessica's dad tells her he has to work this weekend on something called the biometer. He has to work with Julie, who Jessica doesn't like. Ken's working on his motorcycle and thinking about his dead friend. So Ken's remembering the time when a bunch of guys drove motorcycles around in a circle for a coffee can filled with money. A truck runs over one of the bikes, and I have no idea what's going on. Julie shows up to tell him it was an accident. Ralph takes the limo to pick up the girls. Here, honey, I packed you this garbage bag of sandwiches. Jessica's confiding in her friend George, the hand puppet. George plugs into the mainframe so Jessica can play Turbo on ColecoVision. Julie pulls over and somehow Jessica is now driving the car. Oh, come on! Footage this obviously sped up is usually accompanied with the yakety sax. What exactly was the point of that? The limo takes the girls to the ever-popular stage shop. Get out, all of you! Do these two just hang out here all day and stare at people? Tony hits on one of the girls, and what is she doing?
Is that supposed to be sexy?
Tony calls other Tony over. Oh, now he's doing it too? Tony goes outside to give the limo a flat tire. Ralph gathers up the girls, and Tony tags along. Julie brings a super mean dog to see Edward. The gang stopped off at the side of the road while Ralph changes a tire. Meanwhile, these two are doing this. This could be quite possibly one of the worst times for sex. See? What did they think would happen? Ralph should beat them with the tire iron. What the hell is Tony doing? Other Tony is finished, so they walk back to the bar. Ralph brings the girls to the house. Julie's trying to convince Edward to do some kind of tests on humans, but he says the Apache isn't ready. Jessica goes to play more Turbo and drives Julie's car into a tree. Turns out Edward forgot to turn off the Apache, which is how she was doing this. Why would her ColecoVision be able to specifically target Julie's car, though? Edward and Julie are doing a test on the dog. Operation Sigh? They turn a plastic bowl into a metal ball bearing, and the dog eats it. The angry dog is now a happy dog. Jessica's roller skating into traffic and heads to the stage shop. She sees Ken and decides to follow him. She's not so good at skating. Now she's awkwardly sitting at the bar while these two reenact a scene from The Accused. The hell kind of bar is this? So everyone just kind of stands around watching? Jessica's had enough, so she goes outside and leaves a message on Ken's motorcycle. She's then accosted by the couple. Oh, they finished up quickly.
What about you, huh? Don't you want to take on the pinball wizard?
You kidding? She doesn't know a goddamn thing about it.
Yeah, she doesn't know much about having sex on a pinball machine in front of a bunch of people. Julie's talking to a mysterious person. She's the one who brought all the girls to the house for human experiments. The girls are relaxing by the pool. I think Tony left a Bill Clinton on Pamela's bathing suit. Jessica goes home to talk to George. She's telling him about Ken.
When I looked at him, it felt like an electric shock. Just like that, I got all wound up inside.
Are we supposed to be taking this seriously?
Diagnosis: in love. You are in love.
Yes, we figured that out like an hour ago. Julie tells Ken to get a personal object from each of the girls. Ken gets caught trying to rob Pamela, so she makes a pass at him.
You can never get what you want.
Sex from a guy you met 30 seconds ago? You already got that today. Since Pamela can't get Ken, she asks Ralph to take her back to the bar to get Tony. While there, Ralph orders up another booze sandwich. She brings him back to the house for this clumsy striptease. She tells him to wait while she takes a shower. But she got a shower before she went out! Were they just making this up as they went along? Julie turns the items into ball bearings. One of the balls goes into Annie's mouth. She's now under the control of Apache, so Julie's observing via the not-so-hidden camera. This is like Sliver, only somehow more lame. Jessica's getting dating tips from George.
Probabilities for other meeting. Hitchhiking, 66%.
Hitchhiking, that's it. Thanks, George.
Hitchhiking? So she goes hitchhiking, and Dave, the guy from the bar, tries to pick her up. What exactly was she expecting? Dave attacks her, and Ken finds her stuff and rescues her. George activates Apache and kills Dave. Jessica and Ken stop to get gas. She's upset because she wants to have sex, but Ken has to make a delivery. Back at the house, gah! Tony, and this girl go looking for Dave.
Dave! 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 Dave's not here!
The dog dies, so Ed takes it to the vet. A little late, don't you think? Julie calls the mysterious guy and unveils the plan.
I speed up the experiment and betray an honest man. You give me 1/3 of the profits and $500,000 up front.
Ken decides to delay his delivery so he can see Jessica. He then realizes this is the house where his friend died. Julie comes on to Ken and Jessica runs off. Back at the bar, the Tonys are trying to get Ralph to take them to the mansion. Ken tells Jessica he's in love with her, even though they just met this morning. The Tonys get to the house while the girls are trying on dresses. The girls go downstairs to see the guys. Tony and Linda go to the bedroom, and oh my goodness! I need to supersize my sensor bar. Mary Rose swallows a ball and gets attacked by the tarantula. Julie sends a ball to Linda's room, and it goes in her panties. Does that mean when she puts her panties on, it's gonna go, there? It's after sex, so the two are chatting it up. Who wrote this dialogue? E.L. James?
I'm walking on air. Is it your fault?
What's my fault?
I wondered if it's you that's making me feel so fine, so deep down good.
Nope. Can anyone in this movie dance? Tony goes to eat Linda's panties, and I give up. Ken's out at the lake with Jessica, and I didn't edit this. That's how it is in the movie. We get some time with Jessica's inner monologue. How much time? Close to 5 minutes.
Oh, I don't want him to leave. I want this to end ever.
The ball turns itself into an ice cube, and Annie drinks it, which makes her fall in the pool. This movie is exhausting. Tony decides it's time to leave. Edward tries to shut down Apache, so Julie very lightly smacks him on the head. Ken then leaves to make his delivery. Jessica finds all the girls have gone nutso. She runs away and the girls start killing each other. Tony corners Jessica and spills Ecto-Cooler on her. Wait, didn't he leave? Mary Rose kills him and she gets away. Julie finds Jessica and tells her this is all her father's fault. Edward shows up to save the day. Alright, not really. Julie then tells them off and leaves them in a house full of mutant killers. Julie calls Ken and he tells her he has all the money. Edward's trying to destroy his work and Jessica doesn't seem to be affected by anything that just happened.
Help me get rid of this junk.
What? What junk? Sorry, Daddy, I'm in a hurry. Ken's waiting for me at the ranch.
Julie's driving to see Ken, but uh-oh. She goes after Ken, but he kills her with a wrench. George tries to protect her, but drops the garage door on Ken. That's the end? Well, makes about as much sense as anything else in this movie, which is none. The movie was shot mostly in Ocala, Florida, with some additional filming in Long Island, New York. They chose to shoot in Ocala because of this huge house they were able to rent for the production. Because of the rise of horror films in the early 80s, the producers worked on a concept. They wanted to make a bunch of R-rated films aimed at a specific market for about $500,000 each. Nightmare Weekend was supposed to be the first of many. If the film seems like a disjointed mess, there's a reason for that. The film was a joint collaboration of filmmakers, American, British, and French. There were 2 scripts, one in French and one in English. The director, Henri Sala, spoke French and very little English. Most of the film crew was French and spoke no English. When they made changes to the script, they made changes to the French copy, but kept forgetting to update the English one. So things got a little bit messy. Henri Sala was an experienced French director, which is how he got the job. However, he had never done horror before. His previous films were almost all erotic, softcore pornography. So when he did Nightmare Weekend, there was tons and tons of sex, even when it made no sense. They shot the film in July of 1984, and for whatever reason, they decided to dub all the voices. They didn't want to bring the cast back, so no one got to dub their own voice, except for 2 people. Robert John Burke, who played Dave, was in New York at the time, so he was able to record. The other was the producer, Mark Gottlieb, who played the small part of the gas station attendant. Dean Gates, the effects supervisor, was attendant number 2. When the producers saw the dailies for the film, they were concerned. Lots of nudity, but very little gore. They had the effects supervisor add in more gore and had him film some additional material in New York. They had a hard time getting the cast back because they really didn't have a good time making this movie. The director was trying to make a serious horror film, but it ended up being full of unintentional camp. The cast was filled with first-time actors. After working on the film, most of them decided to leave the industry completely. The 3 producers also decided to find other work. So their concept to crank out a bunch of low-budget horror films ended with one. This movie seems to have ended Henri Sala's career as well. He did one more French film under a pseudonym and then retired. While most of the cast quit acting, a few continued and were successful. Dale Midkiff did the Stephen King adaptation Pet Sematary and the cult TV show Time Tracks. Andrea Thompson had plenty of work over the years, from Falcon Crest to Babylon 5 to NYPD Blue. She even did some voice work in Fallout New Vegas. Robert John Burke was the replacement for Peter Weller after he left RoboCop in RoboCop 3. He's since had over 80 credits to his name, from Gossip Girl to the recent BlacKkKlansman. Bruce Morton, who played Tony, did one other film, The Toxic Avenger, where he played Tony. Dean Gates, the effects supervisor, went on to work on much bigger films like The Abyss and Maximum Overdrive. In 1995, he won a Primetime Emmy for his work on Deep Space Nine. The movie was a mess that was buried, but a damaged print was later picked up by Troma for a video release. The cult preservation company Vinegar Syndrome recently restored an old print for a Blu-ray release. The film was butchered upon its initial release to get an R rating, but they managed to get it fully uncut in all its boob and gore-filled glory. I saw the muddy old VHS release back in the 90s, and while being uncut doesn't do much to improve the story, it does look light years better. Nightmare Weekend is one of the most bizarre films I've ever covered. It's an incoherent mess that feels like a horror film done by a softcore director, because that's exactly what it is. It's so weird to have this girl talking about love with a sentient robot hand puppet, while people 10 feet away are fornicating like rabbits. Then you got people transforming into mutant killers for reasons that were probably lost in translation. With how things were handled behind the scenes, it's amazing that anything in the film is coherent. This is a movie that needs to be seen to be believed. The closest I can compare it to is this is like The Room, if The Room was a horror film. I don't know, maybe one day they'll make a film about the making of this film too.
I wondered if it's you that's making me feel so fine, so deep down good.
I hope so.